All right, you sick fucks. Want to know what we're diving into today?
You guessed it.
Fucking Israel, baby.
That's right.
This place is a total shit show. You think you know it from the news?
Oh, the headlines.
We're going deeper.
Way deeper.
Unearthing the fucked up shit they don't want you to know.
Buckle up.
And to help me sift through this clusterfuck,
Oh, yeah.
I've got a real expert here. Someone who's seen the good, the bad.
And the really fucking ugly.
Let's cut the crap and dive right in.
Let's do it.
First off, this little shit stain of land, Israel,
Yeah.
older than your grandma's dusty vagina.
Seriously.
We're talking Bronze Age, Iron Age, the whole 9 yards.
The whole shebang.
Kingdoms of Israel and Judah, that Exodus myth,
Right?
that's about as real as a unicorn riding a goddamn rainbow.
Hey, you got that right.
Empires have been scrapping over this place like rabid hyenas for centuries.
It's a never-ending pissing contest going back thousands of years.
Assyrians,
Babylonians,
Persians, Greeks, Romans,
Byzantines,
the whole gang's here.
you name it.
They've all tried to jam their flag in this little turd.
And get this.
What?
The name Israel
Yeah.
pops up in some ancient texts
Oh, really?
from a city called Ebla.
No shit.
Way before the Bible was even a twinkle in some sheepherder's eye.
For they were just tossing that name around all willy-nilly.
There were other suggestions on the table.
Like what?
Ever, Zion, even Judea.
Judea.
Can you believe it?
That's so lame.
They ended up picking Israel by a committee vote,
A committee vote?
6-3.
You're kidding me.
Talk about a close call.
A fucking popularity contest for a country's name? That's wild.
It is what it is.
Fast forward a few thousand years and you've got the British Mandate, the UN trying to play referee, the 1948 war.
The Palestinian Exodus.
It's a goddamn mess.
It's a twisted, tangled history, and we need to acknowledge the different perspectives.
Oh, here we go.
For the Jewish people, creating Israel was a victory.
Yeah.
A return to their ancestral homeland.
Sure.
But it also led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians.
Exactly.
An event they call the Nakba, the catastrophe.
A real shitstorm.
That wound is still festering today.
So basically, one group's triumph is another group's tragedy.
That's one way to put it.
And then the 1960s,
That's when things really went to shit.
the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, those goddamn
It's
intifadas.
been a non-stop bloodbath.
So much for peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
The Six-Day War in 67 was a turning point.
Absolutely.
Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula,
The Gaza Strip.
West Bank, East Jerusalem.
The Golan Heights.
They went on a goddamn shopping spree.
It was a decisive victory for Israel.
No doubt.
But it also laid the groundwork for the ongoing territorial disputes and conflicts we see today.
They opened up a whole can of worms.
Can of worms with nuclear warheads.
Speaking of which, let's not forget the elephant in the room.
Oh yeah, the big one.
Their nuclear program.
Everyone knows they've got the bomb.
But they play this coy little game of deliberate ambiguity.
They won't confirm or deny.
It's the worst kept secret in the world.
A 1993 report pretty much spilled the beans.
And let's not forget,
Right.
they've been launching their own spy satellites since the goddamn 70s.
It's all about maintaining a strategic edge.
Keeping their enemies guessing.
And shitting their pants.
Speaking of keeping their enemies on their toes,
Oh boy.
these guys don't fuck around when it comes to military might.
They're packing heat.
6th highest military spending in the world.
For Christ's sake.
Aero missile system, the Iron Dome,
They're like a walking, talking weapons expo.
the goddamn arsenal on steroids.
It's true, they've invested heavily in defense technology.
They have to, given their volatile neighborhood.
They even have a special reinforced room in every house.
Get the fuck out of here.
Designed to protect against chemical or biological attacks.
Seriously.
Yep, it's called a mamad.
A mob it.
It's a concrete reinforced room with an airtight door
Sounds cozy.
and a ventilation system with filters.
So they can breathe easy while the world burns.
They're mandatory in all new construction.
Talk about taking home security to the next level.
Next level paranoia.
I guess living next door to some of their friendly neighbors would make anyone paranoid as hell.
You think?
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom.
There's a silver lining.
Israel's also a goddamn economic powerhouse.
They're killing it.
They're like the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, the startup nation.
Churning out tech companies like it's nobody's business.
So what's the secret sauce?
It's a combination of factors.
Lay it on me.
Government policies that encourage innovation, a top-notch education system, a culture that embraces risk-taking.
So they're not just a bunch of trigger-happy religious fanatics.
It's a recipe for entrepreneurial success.
Who would have thought?
Plus, they have this chutzpah, this audacity
Okay.
that drives them to push boundaries and challenge the status quo.
I like the sound of that.
It's a powerful force.
But hold on, I thought these guys were all about war and religion.
It's complicated.
When do they have time to build all these tech companies?
It's a complex society full of contradictions.
My head's spinning.
They're deeply religious, but also incredibly secular.
So they pray to God and the almighty dollar.
They've been through countless wars, but they're also driven by innovation and progress.
Sounds exhausting.
It's what makes them so fascinating.
We're completely batshit crazy.
It's a matter of perspective.
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
We've only just begun.
We've got a lot more ground to cover.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Hashtag TTS. The Deep Dive Episode 2024-12-20, Part 2 of 3. You ready for round 2?
Hit me with it. We were talking about Israel's diversity, right? You've got Jews and Arabs.
Right, but there are so many different types of Jews, it's insane.
How many flavors of Judaism are we talking about?
You got Ashkenazi Jews from Europe,
Okay.
Sephardi Jews with roots in Spain, Portugal, and North Africa,
So, like, Spanish Jews.
and Mizrahi Jews who trace their lineage to the Middle East and Central Asia.
That's a lot of Jews.
Each group has its own customs, traditions, and even dialects of Hebrew.
Damn, that's a lot of different Jews crammed into one tiny-ass country.
It can be a real cultural clusterfuck at times.
I bet.
There are cultural clashes, religious debates, political disagreements, you name it.
So basically, everyone's pissed off at each other.
It's a constant balancing act trying to keep everyone happy.
And what about the Arabs? They're a minority, right? What's their deal?
Israeli Arabs make up about 21% of the population.
That's a decent chunk.
They have citizenship, but they face discrimination and social barriers.
Figures.
It's a constant source of tension trying to define their place in a country that calls itself a Jewish state.
So basically, it's a Jewish state first and foremost.
That's the debate, isn't it?
And everyone else is just along for the ride.
The Jewish nation state law they passed in 2018 really stirred the pot.
It's that.
It basically says that only Jews have the right to national self-determination in Israel.
Seriously. That sounds pretty fucked up.
It's been condemned by many as discriminatory
No shit.
and a threat to the idea of a democratic state for all its citizens.
So much for democracy, huh?
It's a complicated situation.
Let's lighten things up a bit. We were talking about Israel's tech scene earlier.
Right. The startup nation.
They're like the whiz kids of the Middle East, right?
They've made incredible strides in technology.
Like what?
They invest a ton in R&D, have a highly skilled workforce, and a culture that encourages innovation.
Sounds like a recipe for success.
They're world leaders in fields like medicine,
Medicine. Like what kind of medicine?
agriculture, water technology, cybersecurity, the list goes on.
So they're not just good at blowing shit up.
They're good at building things, too.
So what kind of crazy shit are they cooking up in their labs?
Well, they've developed cutting-edge cancer treatments,
Cancer treatments. That's impressive.
created drought-resistant crops that can grow in the desert,
No way, in the desert.
and designed advanced desalination plants that turn seawater into drinking water.
That's pretty badass.
They're even pioneers in developing autonomous driving technology.
Holy shit, that's some next level stuff.
It's pretty remarkable.
So these guys are literally changing the world with their inventions.
It's hard to wrap your head around that given all the conflict and religious baggage they're dealing with.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
It's a testament to their resilience and determination.
You gotta give them credit for that.
They're a nation of survivors, and they've channeled that energy into building a better future.
Speaking of building a better future, didn't you say they're obsessed with museums?
They have the highest number of museums per capita in the world.
Seriously. Why the hell would a country in constant conflict care so much about preserving the past?
It might seem strange, but it speaks to their deep connection to their history and culture.
Makes sense.
They've faced countless attempts to erase their identity.
Yeah, they've been through a lot.
So they're fiercely protective of their heritage.
And don't forget that crazy law about hoarding every book, magazine, and video ever produced in Israel.
It's true.
That's some next-level librarian shit.
They require 2 copies of every publication to be deposited in the National Library.
So they got a backup of everything.
It's like a national obsession with documentation.
They must have a massive library.
It is quite extensive.
All right, enough for the cultural deep dive. Let's get back to the shitstorm that is the Gaza situation.
Back to reality.
What's the latest?
The ceasefire with Hamas is holding, but it's a fragile peace.
Fragile is right.
Both sides are heavily armed and deeply distrustful of each other.
They're like a couple of angry exes who still live together.
It wouldn't take much to spark another round of violence.
So we're just waiting for the next explosion.
It's a very tense situation.
And what about those accusations of war crimes and genocide? Is Israel going to face any consequences for what happened in Gaza?
The International Criminal Court is still investigating, but Israel isn't cooperating.
Those bastards.
They're calling the investigation biased and politically motivated.
They always play the victim card.
They've got a long history of pushing back against international pressure.
They don't give a shit what the world thinks.
They're pretty defiant.
So they're basically giving the ICC the middle finger.
Pretty much.
That's ballsy.
They believe they're being unfairly targeted by the international community.
They're paranoid as hell.
They see themselves as a nation under siege,
Always the victim.
constantly having to defend themselves against enemies.
They've got enemies everywhere they look.
It's a siege mentality.
And what about that arrest warrant for Netanyahu? Is he actually going to face trial for war crimes?
It's highly unlikely.
Figures.
Israel has no intention of handing him over to the ICC.
They're protecting their own.
As long as he's in power, he's essentially untouchable.
So it's all just a big political charade, and no one is actually going to be held accountable for all the death and destruction.
The wheels of international justice turn slowly, if at all.
That's depressing.
And in this case, there are powerful political forces at play that are likely to shield Israel from any real consequences.
So they're getting away with murder.
It's a complicated situation.
It feels like the conflict is just going to drag on forever,
It's a cycle of violence that's hard to break.
with no end in sight.
There's a deep-seated hatred and mistrust on both sides that's been festering for generations.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It's a tragedy for everyone involved.
All right, let's shift gears for a minute. I'm curious about Israel's relationship with its neighbors.
You mean their enemies?
It's not exactly a love fest, is it?
Not really.
What a surprise.
They've got a history of conflict with pretty much everyone in the region.
They're like the asshole of the Middle East.
Egypt and Jordan are the only Arab countries they have peace treaties with.
Only two.
And even those relationships are often strained.
So they're basically surrounded by enemies.
Pretty much.
It's no wonder they're so paranoid and militarized.
They see themselves as a lone wolf, constantly having to fight for their survival.
That's a lonely existence.
It's a mentality that's deeply ingrained in their culture and psyche.
And what about Iran? They seem to be public enemy number one, right?
Iran is a major threat, both in terms of their nuclear ambitions and their support for groups like Hezbollah and Hamas.
They're a real pain in the ass.
Israel views Iran's growing influence in the region as an existential threat.
Didn't they just have a ceasefire with Hezbollah? I thought things were supposed to be cooling down.
The ceasefire is fragile.
Here we go again.
Tensions are still running high, and any provocation could lead to a renewed outbreak of fighting.
So basically, it's just a matter of time before the whole region explodes again.
The situation is volatile, that's for sure.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
But there are also glimmers of hope.
Hope? Where?
There are people on both sides who are working towards peace,
Good luck with that.
trying to find a way to break the cycle of violence.
It's a long shot.
It's a difficult task, but it's not impossible.
I'm not holding my breath. Hashtag TTS, the deep dive episode 2024-12-20, part 3 of 3.
So my brain is officially fried from all this Israel talk, but before we wrap up this shit show, let's try to make some sense of this crazy-ass country. It's a challenge, to say the least. It's a place of contradictions, ancient.
Ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Modern. Religious.
Oh, yeah.
Secular.
Uh-huh.
Powerful.
Definitely powerful.
And vulnerable all at the same time.
It's like a goddamn chameleon, always changing its colors.
A nation grappling with its past.
Definitely its past. Its present.
Its present is a goddamn mess.
And its future.
Man, their future is murky as hell. It's like they're trying to cram 5,000 years of history into a space the size of Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, small, insignificant.
Yeah, I get it.
No wonder they're so messed up. So what's the prognosis, Doc? What's the future hold for Israel? More wars.
Wars, yeah, probably.
More terrorism.
That too.
More international condemnation.
Oh, for sure.
Sounds like a real party.
Predicting the future is a fool's game, especially in the Middle East, but a few things are certain. Okay. That ICC investigation.
Oh yeah, the one they're trying to ignore.
That'll continue to loom over them.
Like a giant judgmental cloud.
The tensions with Iran and its buddies.
Hezbollah, Hamas, the whole gang.
Oh, yeah, they'll persist.
Like a bad rash.
And the internal political divisions within Israel.
Yeah, those guys can't seem to agree on anything.
They'll continue to simmer.
Ready to boil over at any moment.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So basically, it's a powder keg waiting to explode.
It's volatile, that's for sure, but it's not all doom and gloom.
Oh, really?
Israel has a remarkable capacity for resilience.
They've got to, right?
And innovation.
Yeah, those goddamn tech companies.
They've faced existential threats before and emerged stronger.
Like a cockroach after a nuclear apocalypse.
Plus, they've got that chutzpah.
The chutzpah, the audacity, the balls to just do whatever the fuck they want.
It's a strange mix.
It's like they're a walking contradiction. They're building world-changing tech companies while simultaneously bombing the shit out of their neighbors. It's enough to make your head spin, man.
It's a reflection of their complex identity, forged in conflict,
Oh yeah. Conflict is their middle name.
driven by a deep desire for peace and prosperity.
They want to have their cake and eat it too. But hey, that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Exposing you degenerates to the fucked up reality of the world.
We've only scratched the surface, you know.
Just a little peek behind the curtain.
But hopefully we've given you a better understanding of this fascinating and troubled land.
Yeah, fascinating and fucked up. It's been a wild ride. We've covered ancient history, wars, nukes, tech, culture. Damn, it's like we just went through a crash course on all things Israel.
Israel 101.
One thing's for sure, though. Israel's a country that defies easy categorization.
It's a country of paradoxes.
It's a paradox, a riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma, with a side of hummus. And on that note, I'm going to go grab a stiff drink and try to process all this shit. Until next time, you beautiful bastards, keep your minds open, your bullshit detectors on high alert, and remember, the truth is out there, and it's usually a lot more fucked up than you think. Peace out.